This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Saturday morning, I'm Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. I want to thank our friends also at Woodbine for their sponsorship. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. Also thank our friends at the Leah Auto Group. They're on board as sponsors as well. Leah Cars to those for their sponsorship of this program, some of the other programming events here at Capital OTB. Do want to see the promo coming up today. The Players Bonus continues, 3% bonus on Churchill Downs wager with your Capital OTB account. There are some restrictions. Check out the website for more info on that. Today there's also a $100 Knockout Challenge here at the Clubhouse Race. We'd love to come down and enjoy all the racing action and participate in the Knockout Challenge, which will be 6 races at Belmont Park, but that all happens Saturday afternoon. Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Should remind you also, or alert you, I mentioned it earlier, so I'm reminding people that heard us the last couple of days, but alerting folks who maybe aren't aware, 2 versions of OTB Live on this Saturday. Saturday afternoon, I'll be in, as usual, taking a look at the afternoon action on OTB Live, but Mike Callahan and Sully Crotty will be in tonight because there's some great action tonight as well. The Penn National Card featuring the Penn Mile and lots of other great stakes races. That kicks off about mid-afternoon but goes into early evening, and it's a nighttime card down at Churchill Downs. So again, Mike and Sully will take a look at all that action with an evening edition of OTB Live, and you know what that means? Thoroughbred racing action available tonight at Capital OTB and tomorrow night as well. So Saturday and Sunday, thoroughbred racing available here at Capital OTB Bet and on Capital OTB TV. Don't forget also a programming note next Friday and Saturday actually. We will be live from Belmont Park. We're going to head down on Thursday, capture some interviews and plug them into the programming Friday and Saturday morning live from Belmont Park, heading into Belmont Stakes. Nice stakes action with the Belmont Festival going on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we'll have a lot on that action and more next Friday and Saturday mornings here on Capital OTB Live from Belmont. Speaking of the Belmont, reserve your seat here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Come on down and enjoy Belmont Stakes Day with us here, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Also want to alert you, the Hambletonian Future Wager got underway. So if you're a sulky side guy and you're jealous of the folks playing the Kentucky Derby Future Wager, there's a Hambletonian Future Wager as well. It opened Friday. It closes at 11 o'clock on Sunday. You can take a look, and the press release they sent out has 15 betting interests. The 15 is all others, and the favorite is Green Shoe at 4-1. Currently the favorite, or the morning line favorite. Betting opened at 11 o'clock on Saturday. I haven't looked at an update. But again, if you're a sulky side person, want to jump in and play the Hambletonian Future, that is available until 11 o'clock on Sunday. All right, on this edition of the show, we're going to talk some of that Penn National Card, great stakes action. We have Eric Johnston, the Director of Racing Operations, coming up a little bit later on. Our friend Andrew Dembski, who we last talked to down at Tampa Bay, but he's got a new gig with the Pennsylvania Horse Racing Association. He'll be at Penn National on Saturday afternoon, so we got some handicapping thoughts from him. But we're going to start things out about 11:30 this morning. You'll be able to watch right here on the network the Epsom Derby. The great 3-year-old classic from England. Yesterday they had a couple of Group 1s at Epsom Downs as well. And we're going to kick things off talking to Chris Cook. He's the horse racing writer for the Guardian newspaper over in England. Also does some handicapping for the Guardian. We caught up with Chris yesterday afternoon after the running of the 2 Group 1s, the Coronation Cup and the Oaks. So we got some thoughts there, but also a little preview of the Derby that is coming up again at 11:30 this morning. Up next, Chris Cook. Couple of big days across the pond at Epsom with the Epsom Derby Saturday at about 11, and Friday a couple of Group 1s with the Oaks and the Coronation Cup. So I thought we'd reach across the pond, as it were. Chris Cook joins us from the Guardian newspaper over there. He's their racing writer and also a handicapper. Chris, good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Very good. I should say good afternoon for you over there, but we're taping on Friday, and it is a little later in the day over there. The Coronation Cup and the Oaks have been run. We'll do a little recap of those and then a little preview of the Derby for Saturday. But before we do that, I'm curious, have you ever gotten a chance to get over here and catch racing in the United States?
I've done a very little bit on my sort of fleeting visits. I made it to Aqueduct. I think that might be the only time I've been racing it. It was just a quiet day, none of the big days, and enjoyed it very much. We were desperate to get back there. Some of your other tracks, and go to the Breeders' Cup and the Kentucky Derby. And
certainly we'd love to see up here in our neighborhood at Saratoga. I think you'd enjoy that as well. When you went to Aqueduct?
Well, I hear it's very beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. We love it, and it's a little. People always, as horse racing fans, it's on the bucket list over here, and when people make it, they say it's lived up to all their expectations. But I'm curious, your trip to Aqueduct, did anything stand out to you as being different here in the United States as over there in Great Britain, racing-wise?
For a quiet day, I think it was pretty similar. The difference would be, there's an awful lot of gaming machines going on inside the grandstand, which I guess is where a lot of the revenue comes from. We don't have that really here at all. There's regulations and so that prevent it. You could say that's a sort of an unexplored sort of potential income for the sport here. But I personally, from the perspective of a horse racing fan, I would have preferred a grandstand full of people who were focused only on the horses. But anyway,
that's what you get up at
when the races came around.
That's what you get up at Saratoga. That's the beauty of it. And I say Saratoga is nice because it goes beyond the fence around the racetrack. The whole town is involved for that month and a half of racing up there. And I guess there are some venues there that are as exciting. Let me ask you also, I'm curious always about Royal Ascot. And have you had a chance to go there? And what stands out to me about Royal Ascot that is different from what we have here? Royal Ascot, there's a whole fashion thing going. You got the top hat and the tails. When you went there, did you have to put on the fashion get-up?
There was one day when the Guardian decided it would be great fun to make me dress up in the full top hat and the black outfit, which is not my normal standard of dress, and send me into the Royal Enclosure to kind of mix with the great and the famous, and see, just write a colour piece on that. And look, it was great fun to do it one time, but it wasn't my natural environment by any means. And you always get slightly irritated by the fact that some of those guys are there to be seen, aren't they? And they don't know anything about the horses, and they sort of they look up over their prawn cocktails and go, "Oh, did they just run the Coronation Stakes?" Anyway, but I mean, it's different to anything that happens anywhere else. Here or in any other country, it has to be seen to be believed, and it's great fun. I met Wes Walker there one time, unbelievably. There was another take off the bucket list unexpectedly, meeting an NFL player.
Yeah, and of course, I'm sure he was there with Wesley Ward. And talk a little bit about that from the perspective of folks over there. How impressed are you that Wesley Ward, the past, 2 or 3 seasons, has been able to bring over and be very successful at Royal Ascot?
I mean, he's the man to fear in those 2-year-old races now. You sort of, as a punter, you automatically look for his horses. It's amazing, really, to be able to train your horses in America and come over and win those races that everybody here is trying to win, and he keeps on doing it. So yeah, and do you know what else it adds from the perspective of a fan is when you get that international interest in the races that you've always followed, it gives you the sense of how important the races are, and it's not just your little world that cares about the outcome here. The idea that there's people all around the world who would like to win these races. It gives you sort of a great sense of the occasion.
Yeah, it's fun for us too. Wesley Ward launches his 2-year-olds at Keeneland in April, and once one goes across the finish line first, we're always thinking, oh, that one's going to Royal Ascot, so that's a little juice over here as well.
It's a little hard to get a handle on the form for Keeneland. I'm not used to sort of sussing out how good those horses are, so I'll have to get better at it.
Again, the 2-year-old races at Keeneland, much like you, the first thing you look for does Wesley Ward have one in. So the handicapping has that same puzzle aspect to it that has a little bit of a head start. Let's talk a little bit about Friday and Saturday at Epsom. Again, it is Derby weekend, but things kicked off on Friday. And as I say, we're talking to you on Friday afternoon after the running of the Coronation Cup and the Oaks. So let's do a little review of those. We'll go back, we'll watch the stretch run from the Coronation Cup and both of the Group 1s today. Nice ding-dong battles down the stretch. Kew Gardens for Aidan O'Brien with Ryan Moore on board the number 4 horse, but gets passed late in the running by Defoe. Defoe winds up to be the upset winner in the Coronation Cup. Give us your thoughts on the results of the Coronation Cup.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that those two races today have in common, Aidan O'Brien, who's won so many of these Group 1s, he's managed to get chinned in both of them. And both times his horses, Kew Gardens in the Coronation Cup and then Pink Dogwood in the Oaks, they've taken the sort of safe route where you can always get a run. They come down the middle of the home straight at Epsom, avoiding the trouble. And meanwhile, the winner has sort of managed to get a charmed run up the inner, which is really normally not the place to go. The other thing about Defoe is we're used to sort of thinking of him as a horse who prefers a bit of cut. Do you have that expression? He likes
Yes.
a bit of juice in the ground.
Yeah.
It's fine weather over here this weekend. It's supposed to be fast ground. So now we're starting to think maybe we underestimated the extent to which there might still be some moisture in there. I've been picking fast ground horses for tomorrow's racing, and now I'm wondering if I've done the wrong thing. But I think it all fell into place for him today. He hadn't won for a while. I think his last win was May last year, and he was by no means the most obvious one. But he's a brave horse, and he stays well. And in the end, I don't know that this Coronation Cup is the most high quality Group 1. It looks like early season Group 1 form. I think some of these horses who've come to the fore today are going to struggle to sort of achieve similar results later in the season when some of the bigger names come out.
Should mention the jockey Ed Sen. He had a pretty good day at Epsom today.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good man. In fact, I backed him to be champion jockey last year, and it didn't quite happen. But he's. I think his last 3 rides have all won. He's only had 3 rides at Epsom today, and they've all gone in. Gossiping in a handicap 10-1, Defoe at 11-1, and then Mountain Angels just won another handicap 11-4. So anyone who follows him has had a huge day.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to remind myself where he's on tomorrow. There you go. He doesn't have a ride in the Derby, amazingly enough. But he's on a horse in one of the later races called Spanish City that I quite like, about 6-1.
Let's move on to the Oaks, and again, it was another ding-dong stretch battle with, as you say, the Aidan O'Brien horse who kind of sits out more in the middle, Pink Dogwood, the number 11, but coming up on the inside, Annapurna. Again, nice little ding-dong battle here. Our odds over here were 5-1 on the number 1 Annapurna, 5-2 on the number 11 Pink Dogwood. But notable here, coming up on the inside, we were talking about jockeys, Annapurna. Frankie Dettori on board for John Gosden. Talk a little bit about the results of the Oaks.
Yeah, it was a nice ride by Dettori. I think he's judged the pace fairly well. He had Annapurna forwards from an early stage, and I think that's allowed. The ride that he's given this filly, he's allowed her to run to her absolute best. Pink Dogwood's ended up making her run from further back, and possibly that effort just to get to the front has ended up costing her in the last 100 yards when Annapurna's rallied against the rail. You'd have to say that Dettori was lucky to get the split that he did. So many times you've seen horses sort of just toiling in the first furlong of the straight Epsom to find a way through the tiring horses that come back on you. But yeah, gap opened nice on the rail, and she was brave to take it. This was only her 4th run, so she's not the most experienced in the field. But but yeah, I mean, Pink Dogwood's, a bigger horse, and I think probably in time she's going to prove the better of the pair. And you would have thought she was home for all money when she came charging down the middle of the track under Ryan Moore like that. But just got outfought, as I say, in the last 100 yards, having made a big run just to get to the front,
Yeah, when she made her move, it did look like it was going to be Pink Dogwood, but it was a nice ride up the rail, up the inside by Annapurna, gets it done there. And as you say, only 4 stars for that one. That is what's notable to me is the difference between the racing over there and the racing over here. You get to these classic kind of events, and you have some very, very lightly raced horses, and that plays into Saturday in the Epsom Derby. And we're going to take a look, in fact, at one of those who's, I think, the likely favorite, Sir Dragonet. Only 2 starts for Aidan O'Brien. We're going to watch the stretch run of the Chester Voss back on May 8th. We're going to pick it up coming in. He's on the outside there in the blue silks with the blue cap, the number 7 horse. Was sitting way in back early, but makes the sweeping move as we're seeing and wins very easily. This was only start number 2 and at 1.5 miles off a career debut at 1 mile and 9/16. Again, that's completely foreign to us over here. But as I say, off of this, you would think an Aidan O'Brien runner with Ryan Moore likely favorite, but Moore has Aidan O'Brien has 7 horses in here. Broome is interesting with Aidan O'Brien's son on board, but from what I read, there may be some class question marks as to who he has beaten. Japan had a nice 2-year-old season, but the 3-year-old debut was a little bit disappointing. Line of Duty is interesting to us over here because he won last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile at Churchill Downs. And, of course, Sir Dragonet. Telecaster, another lightly raced horse, the one that Dante just a couple of weeks ago. Give us some of your thoughts in the Derby on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of these really fancied horses, in fact, I think that the horses are going to be first and second favourites, Sir Dragonet and Telecaster. They're a nightmare for long-range punters, and actually for their trainers, because as recently as March, you wouldn't have heard of these horses. You'd have no idea that they were going to wash up in the Derby. I think Telecaster had his first race on the 30th of March. Sir Dragonet probably didn't turn out until April. And I tend to think, like, if you take Sir Dragonet, okay, so he was so impressive out of a blue sky at Chester. He wasn't even entered in the race, and they've had to pay £85,000 on Monday there to put him in at the last possible stage. And you could tell that Aidan was surprised that the horse was able to do that. It was soft ground at Chester, and it might just be that wasn't a very strong race, and it's sort of, he's ended up being the only horse who can really cope with those conditions. He might have been on a nice part of the track the way that some other races have worked out. There was a horse in today's Oaks called Madai, who was she did a similar thing. She massively enhanced her reputation at Chester that week on the soft ground by winning the Cheshire Oaks very impressively. And then she's ended up being well beaten in the Oaks today. Admittedly, she had a really rough passage. She kept getting bumped by other horses. But that just goes to show how a horse that looks so impressive so recently, but in different conditions, doesn't necessarily hold up that form when she comes to Epsom. And my thinking at the moment is that Sir Dragonet, he might just have a really big engine. He might be the best horse in the race. But I don't think you can back him at 3-1 to do that again under very different conditions, particularly because Epsom on fast ground, generally speaking, the front is the right place to be, or somewhere near it, because it doesn't turn into a test of stamina. The horses are coming from the back; they meet trouble in running. The ones in front don't stop fast enough for them to get there unless they've gone really, an unsustainable pace. And Sir Dragonet is a horse who's probably going to be at the back early because he's been slow to start in both his races so far. I'm keen to take him on.
So what seems clever to you? What direction would you maybe tilt towards and shoot for a little more value?
There's lots of possibilities. Telecaster is the one that I've come down for in the end. I'm going to tip him in the Guardian tomorrow. When you look at the quality of that run in the Dante, it's a bit surprising, really, that you can back him 5-1 for this race. He's got a tough draw. He's in stall 2, which actually, since they started using starting stalls in the Derby in 1967, stall 2 has never produce the winner of the Derby. And you'd rather be backing a horse that's got that kind of stat to beat. But it is only 13 runners. And the horse that's likely to make the pace is called Sovereign. He's an Aidan O'Brien horse. He's likely to go off in the front and try and set the pace for the rest of them. That one is drawn in 4, and I think there's every chance Telecaster will be able to sort of latch onto his tail in the first furlong and end up getting quite a nice position despite being drawn where he is. I think the Dante is the best bit of form that's on offer in this race. That was the race in which Tudor Hawk lost his unbeaten record. He was second. Telecaster, you would say probably he was too free in the early stages of that race, but he was still able to run on more strongly than that really classy rival. And I think it was exactly the sort of run that he's going to need to produce tomorrow. He was able to sort of start fast, secure a good position, then settle, and then run on and repel a really good rival at the end. And the only question in my mind is, it was only 16 days ago, so this is this comes pretty quick for a horse who it wouldn't completely surprise you if he'd left his Derby behind that day. But on the face of it, at the moment, you'd have to say he's thriving on racing. That was his third run in a short time, and if he's able to go again, and his trainer obviously thinks that he is, I think he'll be pretty hard to beat.
Line of Duty, as I say, we're familiar over here because he did win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last year at Churchill Downs, but he made the seasonal debut in that Dante and wound up 7th. What was the buzz on Line of Duty after that race?
There was a suggestion that maybe the ground was a bit fast for him. If that's the case, then he's in trouble tomorrow, because I think it's going to be warm weather and Epsom does dry out pretty quick in the sun. So I think it's going to be similar kind of ground tomorrow. I was with the trainer a month or so ago before he ran in the Dante, and he said sort of quite an interesting thing, just reflecting on the fact that he was able to win at Churchill Downs. The nature of that race on tight turning track really suits this horse, because apparently he's got a concentration problem. He says, you can try running him over a straight mile. We have lots of straight mile races in Britain. But he'd probably, boredom would set in at halfway for this horse. He'd lose interest. So Epsom really ought to suit him. It's turning all over the place. It goes up, it goes down. There's horses bashing into you left and right. This is supposed to be a terrier-like horse. He likes a scrap. And so maybe this race will turn him on. But after that Dante disappointment, and it was only just over 2 weeks ago, he's got a lot to prove. That being said, if you're prepared to take a chance on him, he's 33 to 1, and for a horse that's got that class to win at the Breeders' Cup, if you feel like taking a chance on him, you're being well rewarded with those odds.
And I'd like an opinion also on Broome, because I mentioned this horse earlier. Comes out of a couple of wins. It's Aidan O'Brien. His son is on board running. But from what I've read over here about the race and going through the field, some of the comments on Broome were the writers weren't quite sure what was behind him in those last couple of races. And the morning line I'm looking at is only 4 to 1. What are your thoughts on Broome?
Yeah, he's very professional, and you can like that, and I'm sure he's going to stay. The placed horses in his 2 runs at Leopardstown this year, they were mostly other Aidan O'Brien horses that were sort of less fancied. I think in both those races, his pacemaker ended up making the frame, and that always makes you think, well, yeah. I wonder what he's really achieved. Those races were really set up for him. And his pedigree is, it'd be good by the standards of the horses that most people get to train, but in the context of the Derby, in the context of Aidan O'Brien horses at the Derby, it's a kind of an ordinary pedigree, and he's going to have to to run above it to get involved in the finish tomorrow. I think probably he's going to come up short. Although that being said, Donnacha O'Brien is booked to ride, and Donnacha, like his brother Joseph, he's not going to be a jockey forever because he's big. He just won't be able to keep his weight down for too many more years. And Aidan's done a great job of supplying him with some really classy rides in the big races. He's won a few classics already. So that always makes you think. This horse is on jockey bookings anyway. He's no worse than being at least Aidan's second string for this race behind Sir Dragonet. But I tend to think that O'Brien probably has better chances with a couple of the others, like Anthony Van Dyke, who ran so well at Lingfield the other day. Shamie Heffernan rides him, and sometimes he's popped up on an outsider, and on an maiden horse in a big race. And then there's Circus Maximus that they've booked Frankie Dettori for, and we all know that Frankie knows his way around Epsom. That's a classy horse. He won a good trial last time. They're putting the cheek pieces on him for the first time tomorrow, which might obviously try and liven him up and get him to run his best race. And he, I can see he's 20-1 in places, which I think is pretty big. I quite fancy Circus Maximus to make the frame. I think there's probably going to be one or two too good for him, but he can make the first three, I'm sure.
And we've mentioned Aidan O'Brien a few times, and notably so because, as I said at the start, he's got 7 in here. Is that enough over there to get people to comment about it? Because our Kentucky Derby, if a trainer had 7 horses, that would be the story. Somebody had a potent enough stable to have 7 show up in the big race. Is that a story over there for the Epsom Derby, or is it just another, it's Aidan O'Brien?
The latter, really. I mean, it's always this way with the Derby now, and it's because his employers at Coolmore are reaping the benefits of like 40 or 50 years making really good bloodstock choices.
Yeah.
And they have invested for decades in Derby type stamina, when the fashion for almost everyone else was to go for speed. So they're all breeding kind of Danzig line, or they're looking for milers, maybe 10 furlongs at the outside. And meanwhile, John Magnier and his partners at Coolmore have been sort of investing heavily in sort of the sort of stallion lines that are likely to produce Derby type horses, and they've ended up turning up Sadler's Wells and then Galileo, and they've got nearly a monopoly on the kind of bloodlines that lead you to the winner's enclosure at Epsom. And I some people resent the fact that Aidan dominates the entries for this race, but really it's only fair for the work that his employers have put into. They've supported the race. They're making a visible effort to try and produce these stamina-laden horses in a way that other people are not.
Yeah, and Sir Dragonet by Camelot, who won the 2012 Epsom Derby, so some nice breeding with the likely favorite. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we certainly appreciate the thoughts, because obviously it's a little less familiar to our audience over here, so wanted to get some perspective from the United Kingdom, and we appreciate your comments. Chris Cook, again, writes for The Guardian, and also does some handicapping for them over on Equidale. You have some links to thoughts on the Epsom Derby card on Saturday. Chris, we really appreciate the visit. You're taking the time, and good luck on Saturday.
It's been great fun. Good luck to you.
Chris Cook, again, from The Guardian. Epsom Derby will be coming up shortly on Saturday morning. Thanks again to Chris Cook for taking a little time to review and preview the Epsom action. Again, 11:30 will be the approximate time for the Epsom Derby this morning, or Epsom Derby as they pronounce it. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we will shift our attention to this side of the Atlantic Ocean. This afternoon and this evening, a great card at Penn National. We'll talk more about that right after this.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of ranch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at capitalotb.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today. No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Really nice stakes action, and we'll get some comments on that. Just an overall look at that Penn National Penn Mile card that comes up on this Saturday with Eric Johnston. He's the Director of Racing Operations at Penn National. He's up next. A big afternoon into the evening scheduled for Saturday down at Penn National with the Penn Mile card. Happy to be joined now by Eric Johnston, the Director of Racing down at Penn National. Eric, good morning.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me on this morning.
Happy to have you on. Talk a little Penn Mile card at Penn National. And before we get into that specifically, we're taping on Friday, but give us an idea what the weather's supposed to be like down that way on Saturday.
We've had some really tough thunderstorms the last couple of days. They have all blown out. We're looking for a great day today. Got a chance of some scattered thunder showers tomorrow afternoon. We're not expecting any issues. Turf right now is looking like it's probably going to be good by the time we get to post time for the mile at 7:45.
All right, sounds nice. And you mentioned the big race at 7:45, but give us a little update on special first race post time for Saturday.
Yeah, we got a 2:45 first post. It'll be a 12-race card with 8 stakes races across the card. Stakes races start in the fourth race at 4:05. And we've taken those 8 stakes races and we busted them up into 3 all-stake pick 4s. So you have a stakes from pick 4 from races 4 through 7, 6 through 9, and then 8 through 11. So 3 all-stake pick 4s on the card with a 15% takeout.
Yeah, you and I were talking before we went on the air. There's a lot of mouth-watering wagering opportunities. Again, those pick 4s, 3 of them, all stake pick 4s, starting in race 4, race 6, race 8. As you say, 15% takeout there. Also, you have a couple of mandatory pays coming up on Saturday, correct?
We do. Unfortunately, the carryovers aren't huge on them, but we have a mandatory pay on the second race, which is a super high 5, the Hollywood High 5. And then the Penn Pick 6, which is races 3 through 8.
Yeah, very good. Mandatory pays always attract a little bit of attention, extra attention, though. So hopefully that'll juice those pools up. And also with our friends downstate at NYRA, you're part of their cross-country Pick 4 on Saturday. Pick 5, actually.
Pick 5. So, provided the weather cooperates and nothing goes awry, it'll be an all-stake or an all-turf Pick 5 with the Pennine Ridge up there and then coming back in with the 4 here, the Susquehanna, the Governor's Cup, the Oaks, and the Mile.
And I was looking at the Twitter feed, and I saw our friend Andrew Dembski, Shades, we talked to him during the Tampa season down at Tampa, but he's in Pennsylvania during the summertime. He's going to shift over and give some opinions Penn National Day.
Yeah, he's going to be here. He's joined the group down here, Pennsylvania Horse Racing Association, and they are doing a lot of promotion on the branding of the statewide racing, both harness and thoroughbred. So we're very excited to be working with that group and really happy that the Racing Commission took a little initiative and put some marketing money out there for a statewide branding campaign.
Yeah, that's nice. It should be fun. Should be a fun day. Great racing. We're going to have an evening OTB live. I'm usually in the afternoons handicapping races, but our colleagues Mike Callahan and Sully Crotty will be in the evening, and we'll be including those Penn National Stakes races. So we're going to have some focus on that. So I think it's going to be a fun day. But talk a little bit about, and I've been reading, and we'll hit on the specific races in a moment, but just kind of an overview of how this evening has developed down there at Penn National and become kind of popular. And I'll just give people a little head start. Again, we'll talk specifically about the Penn Mile in a moment, but I'm looking down at the train, and we had Mark Cassie on last weekend, and he alerted us, Moon Colony I'm going to send to the Penn Mile next Saturday. So you have Mark Cassie sending a horse. You have Kieran McLaughlin, Bill Mott, Jeremiah Engelhart, Todd Pletcher, Steve Asmussen. Again, just talk a little bit about how this race and the evening has developed over the past few years.
It is really coming together nice. We started out with a 4-race program back, I think it was 2013 was the first year we ran the Penn Mile. And it was a 4-stake program with a kind of a convoluted post time. We stayed in the traditional post time of our 6 o'clock, and we get 4 races early on. It's developed since then to the 12 race program with the 2:45 special post. We still get the 4 major races, the 4 turf races in that same window of time each week. But you have a great undercard prior to that, and you have a little bit of a finale afterwards. The program itself in 7 years, this is the 7th year for it. When you look at the horsemen that have supported it, you go into the undercard. You got D. Wayne Lucas running a Pennsylvania bred, which we're ecstatic. Mr. Lucas is actually here on property. He's hanging out.
Oh, nice.
He's getting ready for the races. You got Jason and John Service. I think I counted up yesterday. There's like 7 guys in here that are are Kentucky Derby winners. You have multiple Triple Crown winners. You got 4 or 5 Hall of Fame trainers represented across the field between Bill Mott and D. Wayne Lucas, Steve Asmussen, and Jonathan Shepard. I mean, it's a who's who of horse racing, really.
Yeah, my man Shepard, I'm a huge Jonathan Shepard fan, as people who watch the show know. Isn't his farm right down in that area? And he's kind of, at least, I was going to say regular, but he's at least a semi-regular making starts at Penn National.
Yeah, he certainly supports the turf program down here, and he'll run maidens on the dirt from time to time at PA breds. Yeah, his farm is down in southeast Pennsylvania, down outside of Philly. And he's always been a strong supporter of the program for many, many years.
Yeah, as I say, I've been a big fan of Jonathan Shepard for years and years. All right, let's jump into specifics and kind of work our way back and look at the last 3 big stakes on the card, starting with the Penn Mile, Grade 2 event, $500,000 up for grabs, and as the name suggests, a mile on the turf. And Eric, while we talk, I pulled up the Palm Beach from Gulfstream Park. A Thread of Blue will be the number 5 horse here as the winner. Our friend Lee Einseidler has number 7, Casa Creed for Bill Mott. Both of those set for Saturday night in the Penn Mile. Moon Colony, as I talked about before, is also in here. The Black Album for Rudy Brissett. Todd Pletcher has Empire of War. Steve Asmussen and a runner in here. Boy, it's a nice field. Talk a little bit about the Penn Mile.
I'm very excited about this race. Obviously, a Thread of Blue is going to be come in there as the morning line favorite, and he's going to be the favorite at post time. I really think that the depth in this race is there's 6 horses in here that can really have a true shot, and the others, there's a chance that something happens and they get up and have a race of their career at this point. But no, like you talk about Thread of Blue, he's backing up to the mile after the mile on the 16th American turf. A little bit of shorter should help him with the speed and the way he carries that. I think he's going to be tough in there. Casa Creed, as you already talked about, he's going to be right there, second behind the Thread of Blue in the Palm Beach. Al Stahl coming back on 2 weeks rest. I mean, here's a guy that's making a name for himself. Certainly is a big name out in the Midwest, but he's slowly moving eastward. You had a lot of horses running down on the Preakness card over the weekend 2 weeks ago. Steve Asmussen, what can you say about this guy? I mean, he's not shipping a horse in from Kentucky because he has nothing better to do on Saturday evening. And if you look at his form and you think about some of the stuff that he does with his horses, you could see a pattern there where he has confidence in this horse that he shipped him halfway across the country to run in a 500,000 grade 2. So while a Thread of Blue is the favorite, it's a wide open event.
Yeah, and I talk about it often on the show. I love this subdivision of 3-year-olds on the turf, and I think there are great opportunities during the year, this being one of them. And Digital Age looked very good in the American turf. And the Palm Beach that we looked at was Thread of Blue's race from 2 back, a nice win. And he was a close-up second last time in that American turf behind Digital Age. So you could maybe make a case that Digital Age is now on top, but I would say Thread of Blue is either a close second or is number 1 in that division. So that certainly says a lot about the field you pulled in. And I will also toss out there 40 under for Jeremiah Englehart. For folks who don't know, August Dawn Farm, the nom de plume of Bill Parcells. So on the owner side, you have some punch too.
Exactly, yeah. Hopefully Bill shows up, but I haven't heard anything yet. And I'm sure he wants to fly under the radar, so we're not going to say whether he's coming or not. I really don't know.
Yeah, that would be fun. All right, let's go back to the Penn Oaks. Again, a nice field in here as well. I pulled up the Appalachian to take a look at April 7th down at Keeneland. The Mackem Bullet will win as the number 4 horse, but number 9 is Regal Glory. Regal Glory comes to the Penn Oaks for Chad Brown off of this second in the Appalachian. But again, it's another nice field. John Service has a runner in here who probably has to step it up. But I thought that horse was maybe a little bit interesting just on he's taking the shot in here. You have Kieran with a horse in for Shadwell. Arnaud Delacour has a lightly raced horse in Ionic who comes in with a nice record. Fun field in the Penn Oaks. What are your thoughts?
Exactly right. The fun field is a great way of putting it. Regal Glory obviously is going to be the favorite in the spot. But I think you got a couple of outliers in here. The Fleet Destiny, who's got a little bit of stake experience, ran second in a Grade 2 last year. And then UJJ, or Ujaji, I believe is the way it's actually pronounced. I'm not very good with that one.
No.
But that filly, she's done well here. Broker Maiden at Laurel has run here in a couple of little stakes, and, she's won a stake up at Aqueduct. So she's got stakes experience. This is going to be her first trip on the turf. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, as I say, it's interesting. The John Service horse has been well beaten in 3, but he takes the shot. And you mentioned the other one trying the turf. So there are a couple in there like that I think make it an interesting little handicapping puzzle. But certainly Chad Brown likely to take the action with Luis Saez on board. And we haven't mentioned the jockeys. Certainly some notable jockeys coming to town for the evening as well that your fans will be happy to see. Let's also go back to the Pennsylvania Governor's Cup, $100,000 for turf sprinters. We did the handicapping show, our morning show, a few weeks ago, and I was talking with my colleague that morning, and I said, man, when these turf sprints first started, they were a real puzzle to me. But now there's enough of kind of a database that I'm more comfortable and I kind of enjoy them. And that it's more so in turf sprint stakes because I think it's very much of a specialty. And so you're looking for horses that have shown that ability to do it at this level. And I don't think you can find a better example than Pure Sensation. He's the horse that I think is going to take a lot of action. But as an 8-year-old, I'm wondering whether he still has the zip. Certainly he did in April down at Gulfstream. But I'm going to take a look at Completed Pass. We're going to look at the Jim McKay here from Pimlico just a few weeks ago. Completed Pass will be the number 9 horse. Again, this was down at Pimlico, had run a close second at Laurel in a turf sprint stake just before that. So again, this may be a turf sprint stake kind of a horse on the move up. So I'm going to take a little look at Completed Pass in here. It's a short field, but again, that Pure Sensation showed up, I think says enough.
Yeah, Pure Sensation without doubt is going to be, and if you can get 7-5 on him on Saturday, I think that's going to be a huge move. But it's horse racing. We got to run the race. We can't sit here and just pick out winners and deem them the best. And that's the reason we put them in the gate, let them go that 5-8, and they're all going to be right there at it.
That's one that I think a lot of people will use as a free square on their pick plays. And again, there are those 4 all-stake. The 3 all-stake pick 4s with the 15% takeout. And I think, as I say, Pure Sensation would become a free square. I like Completed Pass, but I think both of those will take some action. And those free squares, if you want to play around and get a price, if you can beat Pure Sensation and Completed Pass, those pick 4s will balloon up. So it may be one of those races where take your free square on one ticket and then make another ticket that offers a little bit of value perhaps.
Yeah, and with the 5-horse field, I mean, it's real easy to go deep in there, obviously, and, get all your bases covered and hope for a long shot to come light up the board for you.
And then it's a happy night.
There you go.
On the Penn Mile in the card. And we just touched on 3 of the stakes. It's a stakes-laden card. And Eric, I'll congratulate you and everybody down there for doing a great job. Again, not just this year, but in the years that have led up to what is, I think, one of the better Penn Miles you've had. And, I named the trainers that are going. And as I say, talked to Mark Cassie last week, and he already had this on the calendar for Moon Colony. So I think it has become, for both fans and the horse racing community at large, an early season spot that they focus on. And again, congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And, of course, I hope everybody, I don't want to take anything away from the OTBs up there, but I hope everybody drives down and comes sees the show live.
Yeah, and I certainly, it is within driving distance, and I wouldn't discourage anybody from doing that because it looks like it's going to be a fun afternoon and evening. I saw there was a cooler giveaway, and if folks want to go down in the morning, they can go early and catch the workouts if they wanted to maybe leave today and do a little overnight trip.
There you go. Make a weekend of it. Hit Hershey on your way out.
Sounds good. Eric, again, we appreciate the visit, the thoughts. We wish you and everybody down at Penn National a lot of luck on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening.
Oh, thank you, sir, and I appreciate you having me on today.
Eric Johnson, Director of Racing Operations at Penn National. Their big cards Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening with the Penn Mile to highlight. Thanks to Eric, and good luck on what looks to be a spectacular Penn Mile card coming up on Saturday. Good luck to Eric and everybody in the Penn National organization. But we're going to have more Penn National conversation, some more handicapping angle of a look coming up from our friend Andrew Dembski. As I said earlier, haven't talked to him since he left Tampa Bay at the end of the season, and as he went back up to Pennsylvania, he kicked off a new gig. He's working with the Pennsylvania Horse Racing Association this summer, bouncing around some tracks and making visits and whatnot. He will be at Penn National on Saturday. So right after this break, we'll get some of his handicapping thoughts on that great Penn Mile card. Stay tuned.
Where's the best place to find your favorite teams, your favorite food, daily drink specials, and wagering on live horse racing? Legends Field Sports Bar, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. Get your game on day or night with 75 flat-screen TVs, tournament-style pool tables, a private banquet room, and live horse racing. So if someone asks you, where's the best sports bar in the capital region? Tell them Legends Field Sports Bar, inside the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
You like free money? Well, Capital OTB gives its players plenty of opportunities to cash in. At Capital OTB, there are so many ways for horse players to receive bonus dollars by simply participating in promotions such as our bankrolls, bounty bets, online handicapping contests, and much, much more. Plus, with Capital OTB's Player Rewards program, you get actual cash back. So what are you waiting for? Log on today at CapitalOTB.com or CapitalOTBBet.com and claim your free money.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. It's in front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Bob. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish in the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
As promised before the break, coming up next, it is our friend Andrew Dembski, works for a new organization. He'll talk a little bit about the new gig at the top of the interview, and then we'll get some handicapping thoughts on some of the stakes action at Penn National. Andrew Dembski coming up. Happy to be joined now by our friend Andrew Dembski. The last time we talked down at Tampa Bay Downs, but now in a new spot up with the Pennsylvania Horse Racing Association organization. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but he is also going to be at Penn National on Saturday afternoon and evening. Andrew, good afternoon.
Hey, always a pleasure to talk with you, Seth.
Yeah, when I saw that you were going to be over at Penn National, I thought, let's get some thoughts from Andrew on the stakes action. We talked with Eric Johnston earlier from Penn National itself and got a little update on the whole event, but we'll get some stakes ideas from you on what is a really stakes-laden and fun card. But before we do that, as I said, a new organization, Pennsylvania Horse Racing Association, and you're now associated with them. Talk a little bit in general about the new organization and in particular what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the company, Seth, was basically formed with two goals in mind, and that was to increase handle and increase attendance at Pennsylvania racetracks, both thoroughbred and standardbred. I got to go to Harrah's last week for their big stakes card. I'm excited to be at Penn National, and basically I'm going to be doing plenty of promo work on the internet, on their website, on all of our social media networks, and you can follow the Pennsylvania Horse Racing Association at Penn Horse Racing, and at Penn Horse Racing, that applies to Twitter, Instagram. You'll find us on Facebook and our new YouTube channel as well. So you'll see me all over social media, pushing some racing, and we're really also doing a lot of educational work also. So as much as the organization is focused on PA, we're going to be a great resource just to learn about the game and help grow new fans in the game.
That's great. And we put your Twitter handle up on the screen, which people are familiar with. And the Pennsylvania Horse Racing Association also has their own Twitter feed. And I saw, as you alluded to, that you made some visits to some tracks. And I know earlier this year we took OTB TV on the road a little bit, went out to Vernon Downs and Finger Lakes. And it's fun. I'd never been to either. And it's fun to go to the new tracks and just kind of get the lay of the land and meet up with the people. And that's going to be your game plan, I guess, as you'll bounce around to some of the tracks. And I saw you have booths set up and some swag and whatnot. So that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. I'll always do little recaps of the events, too, online. So you can kind of follow my journeys along with me because at this point, I haven't been to too many Pennsylvania tracks. So I'm just as excited as I think the fans will be to kind of take this journey with me. And Penn National is going to be, for this big card, it's going to be my first time going there. So I'm very excited to be there.
Yeah, and again, we talked with Eric Johnston, and looks like it's going to be a nice day weather-wise. Let's get some of your ideas, and you will be there. You'll be doing some handicapping and meet and greets with the fans and whatnot with the Pennsylvania Horse Racing Association. But let's get some thoughts. Let's start with the Penn Mile, then we'll go back and hit some of the other stakes. As we talked with Eric, there are 3 all stakes pick 4s during the card. The 4th race, the 6th race, the 8th race start those out. The Penn Mile highlights the stakes-laden card. And let's get some thoughts there. Grade 2 event, $500,000 in that subdivision that year in and year out I really like. 3-year-olds on the turf. I think A Thread of Blue is potentially the leader of the division. The horse that beat him last time, Digital Age, may be right up there with him. But A Thread of Blue certainly, to me, looks like the one to beat. But we're going to pull up the Woodhaven from April 20th at Aqueduct. The number 4, Clint Maroon, will win, but number 3, 40 Under, runs a good second for Jeremiah Engelhart. August Dawn Farm is the nom de plume of Bill Parcells, and so 40 Under looks interesting as well. I mentioned earlier with Eric, Bill Mott brings in Casa Creed for our friend Lee Einseidler. The Black Album from Rudy Brissett is interesting. Steve Asmussen has the horse on the outside. Empire of War from Todd Pletcher. I think it's a fun field. Mark Cassidy, we talked to him last week, and he said at that point he was aiming Moon Colony for this spot. Lots of familiar names in here. What are some of your thoughts on the Penn Mile?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this race. I mean, so often when racetracks like Penn National and put together such a tremendous card like this, you have some big stakes like this come up with a lot of local horses and a couple of big barns coming in, and then when the big barn wins it, you go, well, of course that was the case. Of course they shipped to win. But you can't say that about every horse in this field because we have so many top barns shipping horses in to run in the Penn Mile. So it should be a tremendous race. You, of course, brought up 40 Under. That's the horse I landed on to get the job done. I think and I'm kind of doing this based on what the weather is about to do here. We've had rain for about 5 straight days at night here around the area, and this horse is kind of proven on soft turf. So if the turf does get soft 40 Under, that's going to move that horse way up. A Thread of Blue, who got beat by Digital Age last time out, who I'm pretty familiar with for Chad Brown, ran some bang-up races at Tampa, and then, of course, that huge run at Churchill last time. That horse just keeps on coming. So no shame running second to Digital Age. A Thread of Blue looks like a serious threat. And the other horse I'm kind of intrigued by is this Real News, because I think all of 5-1 in the morning line is going to hold up in there. And this horse is, 2 lengths away from perfect. So very intriguing the way this race sets up. But I think it might, if Real News goes and tries to go with A Thread of Blue, it might set things up really nice for the Uncle Mo called 40 Under.
Yeah, I think, again, this is a nice competitive race. I like Thread of Blue, but I wouldn't argue against 40 Under. As I say, Casa Creed is a horse who in the past has been good to me in a couple of spots. The Kitten's Joy at Gulfstream in January, and last summer up at Saratoga, an off-the-turf event. So he's always intriguing to me, but it's a really nice highlight to the Saturday afternoon, evening card. But let's go back and get some other ideas. We were talking before we went on the air. Take a look at the Danzig, which will be race 5, $100,000 up for grabs for Pennsylvania breds going 6 furlongs. And while we talk, we're going to pull up the Belmont May 12th Gold Fever Stakes. Wendell Fong, the number 7, will be the winner, but number 1, Call Paul, runs second. This obviously was open company. It's Jason Service, it's Michael Dubb, and I just find it interesting that they take a horse that is bona fide in the open company ranks. He won the Swale earlier this year, and they're saying, you know what, there's $100,000 up for grabs against Pennsylvania breds. Let's take Call Paul over to Penn National. But it's a nice full field in here. What are your thoughts on the Danzig?
Yeah, I'm just excited to see Call Paul. I thought he'd be a real nice one going forward, and he certainly is. He's proven. I was kind of hoping he would stretch out well, but he's bred for speed, and I get that. But he can do whatever he wants. This horse can go. He can come from off of it. His race in the Swale was just absolutely tremendous. Even his run of the Gold Fever, that was a really good second. Sure, he got passed late, but even the third-place horse in there, or at least it's under the Clement horse, can run a ton. So there were some nice horses in that last race as well. So I'm excited to see a star like Call Paul come back and hopefully just clean up in a state-bred race. And it's an intriguing race. It's just hard to kind of find who might beat Call Paul. So I think this is one of those races where if you are just a fan of Pennsylvania racing and you're just a race fan in general, you're getting to see a pretty cool horse at a real small, nice venue like Penn National. So just kind of enjoy the Danzig, and I think Call Paul will sit the trip and get the job done.
And again, there are those pick fours that are all stakes pick fours, 3 of them. And so if you're maybe looking for a free square and you're going to play around in another race, maybe Call Paul. But yeah, I just think, as I say, I think Jason Service and Michael Dubb said, hey, there's $100,000 up for grabs. Let's go over and take it, maybe skip a workout this week. Let's move on to race number 6 at Penn National, the Penn Ladies Dash. $100,000 up for grabs, 6 furlongs the trip. A couple of horses in here that we do recaps a lot of the Laurel Stakes races. They have a fun wintertime stakes program, and Miss Locust Point Crab Cake, certainly familiar to folks who have been following that Laurel circuit. But let's take a look at a Laurel Stakes race. We'll watch the stretch run of the Priminetta back on April 20th. Number 2, Miss Locust Point, will win over number 3, Karen, who is also in the Penn Ladies Dash on Saturday night. But again, Miss Locust Point, 9 wins and 16 career starts. She's just a stakes quality runner. She ran 4th a little bit earlier this year in the Barbara Fritchie, but that was kind of a salty edition of that race. Subsequently ripped off 2 wins, including this Priminetta that we took a look at. Your thoughts in the Penn Ladies Dash?
Yeah, Miss Locust Point said that's my perfect play on the card. I'm going to single this horse everywhere in the pick fours, which only had that 15% takeout, which is great. I mean, yes, only a nose separated her and Corinne last time. Having said that, there's really nobody who can soften up Miss Locust Point on the frontier. This horse wants to go, and even when she's faced pressure, it doesn't seem to bother her. She's fine. She's just such a gamer. So if somebody does decide to try to go with Miss Locust Point, I'm still not going to worry. The main threat seems to come from too far back, so I'm excited to see her hopefully break sharp, go to the front, and get the job done to get my single home on the card.
All right, let's move on to the Chocolate Town Sprint. $100,000, 6 furlongs the trip. When you're out there, you got to find out the genesis of the name. Like, is the local community known as are they near Hershey?
Penn National's 15 minutes from Hershey.
Oh, why didn't I think of that immediately? There's it. Clearly, the Chocolate Town Sprint. Very good.
There you go.
$100,000, 3/4 of a mile. And we're going to take a look at a horse that obviously you're familiar with. And we're going to go back, in fact, to a Tampa race from earlier this year, the Challenger. Flame Away will win, but number 3, Kelly Begg's Captain, runs 2nd. Subsequently ran 4th in the Run Happy at Belmont behind Forenzi Fire, who just freaked that day in Recruiting Ready. That was a pretty salty race. But again, going back to this nice close-up 2nd place finish in the Challenger, Kelly Begg's Captain shows up in the Chocolate Town Sprint as an interesting runner. Lakai, the number 4 horse, comes off a triple-digit Beyer win in a stakes over at Laurel. Your thoughts in the Chocolate Town?
Yeah, I'm excited for, I think, 2 reasons here. One is with Kelly Begg's Captain entered, knowing the horse so well from Tampa. Of course, he absolutely ran away from Imperial Hint in the Pelican, which was tremendous. And they took a shot just stretching him out in the Challenger in a race Flame Away was supposed to win. But my goodness, Kelly Begg's Captain, he came back at Flame Away. I mean, that was impressive. So He's an absolute gamer. Got beat by a good field last time at Belmont, but Tilly Big's captain. He will be sharp on the front end, and I mean, who knows? Then you have this really cool Ed Galletti entry in here with full brothers in Midnight Charlie, both these Uptown Charlie Browns and Midtown Charlie Browns. So how cool is that? I'd love to see the brothers fill out my trifecta behind Tilly Big's captain. I think that's a great story.
How often do you think that has happened on the racetrack? Two full brothers wind
up
as
1-4, 1-5.
Not just running against each other, but they're an entry to boot.
Right.
And you made the great point. The race we saw with Killy Big's captain, mile and a 16th, the Challenger. The race just before that, he looked pretty good. The 6 furlongs in the Pelican running away from a field. And Saturday's race is that sprint distance. Andrew, really appreciate the thoughts. It's great stakes action. We've only hit on a few of them. Again, lots of betting opportunities that'll be a lot of fun. The Penn stakes card includes the cross-country pick 5 with some of the NYRA races. So there are plenty of opportunities out there. And thanks for giving us some insight into those stakes races. But more importantly, hey, good luck with the new gig. And I think it's a great idea to kind of promo racing across Pennsylvania. We'll be following the Twitter feed and all of your travels throughout the summer. And as always, if I don't talk to you in the meantime, if you make a sojourn, a trip that takes you up one of the off-ramps on the turnpike down there and you do get up to Saratoga, let us know so we can have you sit in with us on the backstretch.
Hey, I really appreciate the invite. I'm a lot closer now, so I hope we'll be able to make a nice trip to Saratoga at some point this summer.
Thanks again for the visit, and Andrew, we'll talk again soon.
Take care, Seth.
Thanks for Andrew Dembski and Eric Johnston as well, taking a look at some of the action at Penn National. Don't forget, tonight there will be an OTB Live evening edition with Mike Callahan and Sully Crotty looking at the Penn National card and Churchill Downs with a nighttime card as well. I'll be in the afternoon with the regular afternoon version of OTB Live, but an extra OTB Live tonight as well that will have a lot of focus on that really fun stakes card at Penn National. 3 pick 4s that are all stake pick 4s during the card. Should be a lot of fun. So again, tune in later on OTB Live for more of that. Also want to thank Chris Cook at the top of the show, taking a look at the Epsom Derby, which comes up in just about a half an hour or so, 11:30 this morning, right here on the network. So stay tuned for that. Also want to thank our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. Our friends at the Leah Auto Group have jumped on board as sponsors as well. Leah, cars for life. So thanks to them. All right, going to wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America. Again, be back in an hour and a half, couple hours or so with OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon. See you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.